Hi everyone, it's Professor Fernandez, and I'm here to help you try to understand how to write a reader response essay for your second paper in 1302. I'm super excited for this. This is the first time I've actually requested a reader response essay. It's a little bit like your journals, except on steroids, essentially. You can actually add more things here, and it's a little bit longer than your journal. So their quick presentation, let's get started here. Okay, so you should see my presentation here. So yeah, it's your reader response essays just like your journals, or very similar, I should say, to your journals, except it's kind of heightened. It's also very formal. So you're going to write in third person here. So, of course, for this lesson, you're going to need the piece that you're responding to. If we're doing this for monstrous, you're going to need it for monstrous. You need to have annotated the piece you're responding to. So if you haven't read it and you haven't annotated it, you cannot even continue on because this is not going to help you until you've done that. And you need to have discussed and considered the piece you are responding to. So that means rhetorical situation. You've got to do all that first. But a little bit about what this response essay is. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is response to a piece or a work of rhetoric. So that means you're gonna do a brief summary. You know, I don't like summaries. I'm not a summary fan, mostly because I've read it and I don't really care what you think it says. I know what it says, but this is one of the very few times you get a summary. So you need a summary, but it's brief. It's literally one paragraph. It is not a whole page. It is part of a page. And you want to put the piece in context. You know, context is everything. You want to react to a piece from your experiences. So yeah, even though it's in third person, there's some experiences that you have that you can react to. You want to react to the specific things in the piece, not just in general. Oh, I like the pictures. Oh, the story is fun. I want specific things. And of course, people think that the response essay makes the world a better place. Not really, but I guess it does in a way, I guess. I don't know. You be the deciding factor on that. Okay, step one. Rhetorical situation. Period in a sentence. You gotta do it. You're gonna try and you're gonna attempt to do this paper without doing the rhetorical situation. And here's the thing, I will know that you haven't done it, and you will fail the paper. There is no like, oh, I'm going to skim by and just talk out the side of my neck and it's going to be fine. No, you're going to fail the paper. I'm just going to put a 0 on it and say you didn't do the rhetorical situation, which is the first thing I told you to do. And then I'm going to move on. And you're going to cry about it, and I'm just going to live my best life, and you're just going to feel some certain type of way. So you can choose to feel a certain type of way, or you can actually do the rhetorical situation. You're an adult, figure it out, okay? So why do you have to do this rhetorical situation? Because you have to find out what the argument is. And again, this is a process. The rhetorical situation is there to help us process this piece of rhetoric to figure out what the argument is and how that argument is made. So you want to know that because you're going to react to those specific things. And you're going to want to know, you're going to want to analyze the text. This is going to help you with your annotations. It's going to help you understand this piece better. It's not just, oh, the pictures are pretty cool, the story is kind of interesting, or I kind of don't understand how to read a comic or a graphic novel. That's not what it's about. Like, really do the work. Also, it's really okay, and let me just encourage you to talk with your fellow classmates about this piece. Like, that's called a study group, and study groups are fantastic in college. Like, really, everybody go grab coffee, everybody go grab lunch, and just say, all right, let's talk about monstrous. What did you get? This is what I got for this. And like, you know, the rhetorical situation took me this long, and how, oh, it took you that long, why? And just have a conversation about the piece, have a conversation about the process of understanding it. because that's going to help you have these conversations in class better, and it's going to help you write this paper better. All right, so the step 2 of this situation, after you've done the rhetorical situation and done the study group situation, what do you actually really think about this? You have to literally sit there and think about what this piece is actually saying. What is being used here? What is Marjorie Liu and Sanata Keita actually using to make their argument? I like to say which part of the rhetorical situation is the most robust. And that means which one's got the most stuff in it, right? You kind of want to have that going there, because that's probably going to be like the most that you can talk about, frankly. And of course, every piece that we read, there's always a conversation. What is this piece having a conversation with? I keep asking, and that's pretty much the context and the topic there on the writer's purpose. What is this piece, what is this author having a conversation with? Are they having a conversation with pretty much the hypocrisy of humanity? Are they having a conversation with how fragile humanity is? Are they having a conversation about people's true intentions? What are they having a conversation about? And is this conversation still ongoing? And then how is that reflected in the piece? Like, how is the writer and the artist handling it? Is the artist handling it with certain hues? Are they handling with certain colors? Are they handling with certain shapes? Negative space in a frame? Is the writer handling it by the characters they're using? Are they handling it with the plot? Are they using a specific point of view? What are they doing? And so here's my thing. Don't say in this paper, ever in any paper or any discussion post or any journal, if something is well done or not. I know that you guys were trained to say someone did an amazing job, or they did a wonderful job, or whatever. Not your job. It is not your job to say if something is well done or not. That doesn't matter. I don't care. I care about other things. So please don't say, "Oh, this thing is awesome," or "I really didn't like it." I don't care. I care about how the pieces that you're talking about, the pieces that you choose to talk about and to respond to. I care about the response, and saying that you like something or saying that you don't like something is not a response. It is barely a sentence. So let's be adults, and let's do what adults do. And of course, for this particular lesson, I want you to write in third person because it's formal, and that's going to make it a little bit tougher because reader responses is really about the reader's response to the piece. So it's super easy to write in first person. I believe this. I think this. I don't want you to write in first person because this is a formal paper. If I wanted you to write in first person, I would make you do a journal and make that your second paper, and that's not what I want to do. I want you to be a little bit more formal with this. It's still your response, and I have a slide here that teaches you a little bit about how to do that in third person. So step 3, of course, you're going to outline your paper. Please outline your paper. That's part of the pre-writing and the planning. If you didn't notice, the better planned your compare and contrast paper was, if I'm still doing compare and contrast, I can't look into the future to see if 2 years from now or a year from now I'm still doing that paper and then still doing this one. But for this particular semester, which is for 2019, you did a compare and contrast paper comparing how the argument was made between two pieces. And those who did well actually did the pre-writing, went through the rhetorical situation, looked at it, decided what to compare and contrast, and really thought about how they related to each other, what was the same, what was different. And that the strength of that paper is based on um, what you do in pre-writing, what you do to plan. The same with this paper. This is not something you want to do the day it's due. Don't do that to yourself. I'll know. I'll know. So you want to do that, and you want to use your notes from your annotations and from the rhetorical situation to help you. So um, notes are important. Notes are the thing. So a possible outline. Yay! All right, so this is what you, it's just a way of doing this. If you have a better way, feel free. But this is pretty standard. All right, so you, of course, you want to intro with your thesis. And here's the difference between this and any papers that you've written. There's going to be a summary of the work. I want you to just to hit the highlights. I don't want a book report. This is not book report central here. Just hit the summary, hit the highlights of what happened in that first chapter. Again, you are only responsible for the first chapter of Monstrous. If you want to do more chapters, or if you want to do the entire book, come see me. Before you do it, come see me, and we'll have a conversation. But you're only responsible for that first chapter. And then paragraphs 2 to 4, it says 5 here, but it's 2 to 4, and I'll fix that here. You want buddy paragraphs. That's pretty much what you're doing. So you'll pick 3 things you want to talk about. This should sound very familiar to you. 3 things you want to talk about and want to react to. 3 specific things. You're not going to react to everything. Look, just the first chapter of this thing is massive. Massive. You just need 3 things. 3. That's why you do the rhetorical situation, so you can pick 3 things. And then you'll want to use examples from the piece. Of course, discuss. And then the last paragraph, which is paragraph 5, you're going to want to tie it up in a brand new spanking beautiful bow and do your conclusion. And then you're going to want to go to the writing lab and revise. Revising is a huge part of this. So I'm going to break it down a little bit. So your intro, again, is your thesis and the summary of it. So here's a possible first sentence you want, and I'm giving you a possible first sentence because you want to introduce the piece and you want to introduce the artist and the writer, and then kind of give me the highlights of the summary. So a possible first sentence: in Monstrous 2018, Marjorie Liu and Tanata Keita create a world of monsters that aren't what they seem. Now you're probably wondering about the 2018 in parentheses. That is a characteristic of the paper. It's not even really MLA. It's a characteristic of a reader response paper where you put the year that the piece printed. Okay? So you may see that book 1 actually printed earlier than 2018, but the whole book, actual 1 through whatever, printed all together in 2018. Yes, I did look it up. Yes, I went to the publisher and they have 2018 as the date. I'm even confused. I thought it was 17, but reliable information says 18. So we're going to go with 18. I also want you to notice that Monstrous is in italics. Why is it in italics? Because it's a book. It's literally its own thing. So again, MLA, if it's something contained within something else, like a chapter, a short story, a poem, is usually contained in a bigger work, like an anthology or in your textbook, it's going to be in parentheses. Monstrous is by itself. It's not contained in anything. So it's in italics. So that's a possible first sentence, and it kind of kicks it off. And then you end up with your thesis, and you guys know where I like my thesis is, the last sentence of the paragraph, because what do? I open it up, I look at that sentence. If that sentence is not there, I put a 50 on it and I move on. So again, put the thesis where I need it. Here's a sample thesis, and we're going to break down this thesis here in a second. Lou and Takeda, and notice that I've mentioned their last names because in the first sentence, I did their entire names, their first and last names. And then anytime after that, I'm going to use their last names, and that's called a second reference. So Lou and Takeda seem to argue that real monsters are hidden behind pleasing facades. The reader understands this by the use of hues and shading in the visuals and the motivation of the protagonist, Micah Half-Wolf, which helps make this tale an allegory for current events. See how it's a similar structure, but it's heightened? So we're really just making everything we're going 2.0. We're upgrading ourselves, right? So I want to break down this thesis here. And my colors didn't show up, unfortunately. So I'll have to point them out here. So you're probably wondering, okay, we did this rhetorical situation to figure out the argument and to break it down and to analyze it, and I don't see where the argument is. It's right here, Lucas. Right there. I don't know if you can see it. Let me go back. The part where it says, Lou and Takeda seem to argue that real monsters are hidden behind pleasing facades. That is me finding the argument after doing the rhetorical situation. So I'm arguing that this is what they're arguing with their narration and the visuals. Okay? And again, you can choose just to do the narration, you can choose just to do the visuals, or you can choose to do them both. In this thesis, in this example, I'm choosing to use them both because I can have a better understanding of the entire thing, the entire argument. If you just do narration or just visuals, you're only going to get half of the argument, right? You want to do the whole thing. I mean, it's up to you if you just want to do one or the other. I recommend doing them both, right? So the argument is here, real monsters are hidden behind pleasing facades. And then what are the three specific things I'm going to talk about? The hues and shading of the visuals, so I'm using elements of design there. Using the motivation of the protagonist, that's goal, motivation, conflict under the strategy, under elements of fiction under strategy. So I'm talking about strategy. And then this tale of allegory for current events, which is under style techniques, which is also in strategy. I'm talking about three specific things. I went through the entire process and I said, I want to talk about this, this, and this. I could talk about context. I could talk about writer's purpose. I could talk about anything. I chose these three things as my examples because I really wanted to focus on those things and I really have something to say. I had a reaction to these as a reader. So that's why I chose these things, all right? So, of course, this structure should look familiar because it's the same structure as the compare and contrast. Same thesis, different way of executing it in the body paragraphs, okay? Let's go. Okay, so let's look at the body paragraphs. So you're going to have three of them because you're talking about three specific things. You want to talk about four things, come see me. You want to talk about two things, come see me. Three is always a good number. 1, 2, 3. I mean, it just fills everything out really well. If you want to talk about more than 3 or less than 3, come talk to me. Because what I'm going to ask you to do is to submit an outline to prove that you have enough to talk about that to fill the 3 to 5 pages for this assignment. Okay, so these 3 body paragraphs, or however many body paragraphs you're doing, I want you to refer to specific points in the text, and that's what goes with the thesis. So one of the things that we talked about in the thesis is that we talked about hues and shapes, I believe, if I remember correctly. So I want to specifically talk about a couple of frames where I think hues and shading actually advances the argument that I'm saying that these people are arguing, okay? Here's a hint. If you feel like you are over explaining something, then you're doing it right. If you feel like you're under explaining it, you're not sure if it's enough, then you're doing it wrong. You should feel like, oh my God, like I've said things forever and a lot, and I feel like I've even said things over. Then you're doing it right. It's just a feeling. If you go by gut feelings, that works. Of course, remember, use third person. You're going to use MLA in-text citations on this, right? So you're going to use, if you're going to talk about, if you're talking about them both, Marjorie Liu is listed first, so it's Liu, comma, Marjorie, and Sonata Keita. So when you do the MLA citation, it's going to be Liu. If you have pages in your version, I don't know if you're using a digital version or I don't know if you're using the paper version that may have pages, you can use pages. If there are no pages, do not use pages. If you're just doing the visual, then your works cited is going to look different. It's just going to be Takeda, comma, Sana, because you're just doing the visuals, okay? All right, so you're also going to paraphrase and quote. And if you're just going to use, if you're going to use visuals as any parts, you're going to describe the visual. You're going to use those elements of design to describe them. You're going to say, in this line, the shading here is a gradient that goes from this color to that color. So it's up to you what you want to do. You have a lot of, ironically, a lot of leeway in this paper. With a lot of things. So you can use the experiences that you've seen or read to add more to this. So for example, if you were to talk about perhaps Micah Half-Wolf as, I don't know what's going on here. Let me get out of that, sorry. Okay. So if you wanted to use Micah Half-Wolf and characterization of the character of Micah Half-Wolf, and you're talking specifically about her motivation, and you want to say, hey, her experiences are similar to those that I've read about those who have been victims of X during World War II. There's so many things happening in World War II. During that time, this and this was happening. That means you're going to do some research and you're going to use secondary sources. So this is the first time where you're actually going to use secondary sources for your paper. So yay! No Wikipedia, no fan sites, no blogs, no shoot, whatever that thing is called where you guys looked it up to supposedly get answers. Don't do that. Don't use SparkNotes. I don't care what they think. I care what you think. They are not going to help you with this. At the end of the day, this is your grade. It's perfectly fine to use databases. I'm very happy for you to use databases, actually. Very, very useful. And of course, the conclusion, you're going to restate things in your words, in different words than you did in your thesis in your intro. Please summarize the big major points. Do not add any new info. Why would you do that? Like, you're done. So don't add anything new. And then remember, this is an actual paragraph. Don't give me like 2 lines and chunk deuce and bounce, and then you're done. This is still a formal essay. You've got a lot of leeway here, but that doesn't mean that you don't do things to the best of your ability. You want to do things to the best of your ability because I'm grading your ability. So I'm grading your ability in your thought process and you being able to use the resources at your disposal, frankly. So you know better, right? So that's what I got here, guys. Quick lesson here, quick information here. I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope this helps you do spectacularly well on this essay. There's, again, a lot of leeways, a lot of decisions and choices that you can make. So it's not very prescriptive like the compare and contrast is. so you can make some good decisions. Um, Again, it's going to depend on you and how well you prep for this essay, how well and how detailed you get with the rhetorical situation, how well that you annotate as you're reading. Um, if you read twice, that's actually even better. How well you do all the pre-things, including the outline. Because once you have the rhetorical situation in the outline, and you know what you're going to talk about, everything else just goes. You know exactly what you're going to research. You know exactly what to look for. You know what to write. You just do it. Okay. I hope this is helpful. See you guys in class.